Today I want to share with you my top 5 psychedelic anime. Shows that will absolutely blow your mind because they are so mind manifesting. And you know, art is such a beautiful medium. And when we pay unwavering attention, I almost see it as a form of prayer because we become what we behold. And movies and anime as well are beautiful mediums for us to transcend ourselves and experience the mind of what is manifested in the show. Because to experience great art is almost like a way to slay yourself. You're gonna die to a certain extent to transcend into the medium and what it wants to show you. And when the medium as well is evolving around topics like consciousness, self-awareness, philosophy, and the question of identity and reality itself, you can get quite far out there. So hey, I'm Ergo and this is Psychedelic Actualization. Usually we talk about psychedelics and psychedelic integration, but one powerful way I have found to first of all enjoy life a little bit more, and second of all also to integrate psychedelic experiences or even have a psychedelic experience without taking a substance is to watch anime. I find anime is such a beautiful medium to really that really sparks a lot of creativity, that really opens up whole new worlds of experience. And many of you might have not known that I love anime, and I do because I grew up with it. And honestly, I think most anime are not good. You know, I do not like most anime, but there are a few, like very few, very niche anime that are just absolutely incredible and that opened my mind and my perspective and invoked a deep process of self-reflection, almost like a psychedelic journey. And today I want to share and present 5 of my favorite psychedelic anime. When I say psychedelic, I would say they are kind of like mind-bending, you know? They're not ultimately trippy in their presentation of the animation, some are, but mostly it's about this process of self-reflection and what it does to our own mind and to our own perception when we fully pay attention to what's happening and we fully invest ourselves in the journey of the show. So are you ready for that? Let's just dive straight in and see what resonates and then take one and just try it out. Try to just fully immerse yourself in that medium and let me know what you think. So, number 5 is an anime called Ergo Proxy. And in Ergo Proxy, we're dropping into this grim, dystopian, futuristic, doomed city where humans live in a controlled society alongside android servants. And then one day a virus starts infecting the androids, giving them self-awareness. And that's when everything kind of like turns over, because suddenly the tools start waking up and asking who they are. And the story follows the investigator Riel Meyer as she chases the mystery outside the dome into this dystopian broken world. And what starts as a little sci-fi case turns into this very heavy philosophical journey about identity, humanity, and the godlike beings pulling the strings behind the surface. I would say Ergo Proxy is kind of like an existential fever dream. It really starts out quite linear, but then as the journey progresses, you get into more like non-linear territory, and it starts to play with perception. And it's really talking about these themes of existentialism, of Gnosticism, of self-awareness. It touches on archetypal ideas like Plato's anamnesis and solipsism, and dives into the question of who am I? You know, it's a bit over pretentious with its philosophy at times, but it really sparked something in me. And I want to share like 1 or 2 quotes just to give you a little feel of what the show entails. So there was a character, he's called Ergo Proxy, and he said, "From the perspective of others, I am a part of the world. But when I observe the world from my perspective, I am nowhere to be found. To observe is to create perspective. I can never cease to be the point of origin from my perspective. And you already see like how the formulation of some of these words, of what some of these characters are saying, are just setting in this process of self-reflection. Another one also related to this theme of self-awareness is I am nobody. Even if I was somebody, I am beyond your comprehension. And even if you could, you wouldn't have the tools to express that knowledge. I do not belong to the world. That is the limit, the boundary between all and self. See, it's a beautiful, beautiful anime that really plays with your mind and that really requires you to pay full attention in this journey as you dive into these philosophical concepts and questions of self-awareness from episode to episode. So I highly recommend Ergo Proxy. The next one is called Serial Experiments Lain. And I have to say, just as a note of appreciation, Serial Experiments Lain, I think it was created in the 1990s somewhere. So quite far back, quite an older anime. And it is highly relevant today because it was almost like this visionary conception of the wired. What's called the wired in this anime is equal to kind of like the internet. And as we progress deeper and deeper into social media, into AI, the anime gets more and more relevant. And I'm just mind blown just by the fact that somebody could foresee the evolution of the internet back then, when we were way before social media, just when the internet was just coming out, you know, just absolutely impressive. And Serial Experiments Lain is not easy to watch because it plays with your perception of reality. It evolves on different layers of different personalities of the main character, and it does not feel comfortable. Just like psychedelic experiences, at times you're like, oh, there's this uncomfortable feeling about them. You're really processing heavy emotions, or you're just not having a good time, you know, it's just not fun. Just like that experience in the psychedelic space, Serial Experiments Lain is not a fun experience. At least for me, you know, it was very uncomfortable to watch. But that's the point of the show. So, Serial Experiments Lain. In Serial Experiments Lain, you meet Lain, which is kind of like this quiet schoolgirl who gets pulled into a hyper-advanced version of the internet called The Wired after a classmate dies and starts messaging people from beyond the grave, from death basically. And at first it feels like a creepy tech mystery, but then it just escalates over the episodes into a reality-bending, identity-splitting questioning of reality, and also really covering what's real when your digital self becomes more powerful than your physical one. It's basically this psychological, cyberdelic trip about connection, loneliness, and consciousness in the age of the internet. And what's really interesting about it is that through the covering of the themes of consciousness and also the merging of mind and reality through the internet, you know, the dissolution of the boundaries between the wired and physical reality itself, it becomes quite psychedelic, you know, and it touches on themes like the body-mind problem, and it touches on themes like divinity, because it really touches on omnipresence, and it touches on God, and it touches on the nature of self. And again, this question of who am I? A few quotes again from Serial Experiments Lain. One is the physical reality is nothing but an illusion. It's a classic one. And the other one is more like a quote from the main character who embarks on a contemplation. You know, and she's saying, okay, let's see, I guess that I'm confused again. Am I here or am I there? I don't know. Over there, I'm everywhere. I know that. But here is connected to over there, is that right? But then where is the real me after all is said and done? Oh, there is no real me. I guess that's it. I only exist inside those people aware of my existence. But what about this me that I can hear talking right here and right now? It's me, isn't it? This me that I hear talking. Who is it? Who's me? So, it's really embarking on these contemplations of the nature of thought, and it's stretching our imagination into this contemplation of if we can transcend our human body and live in the wired, or also what the implications, it's a huge social criticism as well of what the implications of the wired or the internet are on our human connection and human connectedness in the physical world, and how hyperhumanism is kind of like standing against this concept of transhumanism. So beautiful show, very psychedelic in its way of presentation, very hard to follow after a couple episodes where you're just like, where are we right now? Are we in the wired? Are we in physical reality? Like, what's happening? Who am I watching? And so it's beautiful psychedelic show. So the next one is a bit less dark, so it's still very tragic, but we're getting from the more nihilistic side to the more, it's just like life-affirming side. But still, the next show is called Kaiba from Masaaki Yuasa. By the way, Masaaki Yuasa is one of my favorite anime directors. Almost all of his shows are absolutely recommended and beautiful, and even the first best place on this list right here is one of his shows. So Kaiba was shocking to me when I first watched it. When you look at the animation, don't be repelled by it. It looks a bit quirky, it looks a bit weird, it looks a bit childish, but the themes that it covers are very, very beautiful. So Kaiba takes place in a surreal sci-fi world where memories can be extracted, stored, sold, and implanted into other bodies, meaning your identity is basically detachable from your body. And you start off following this journey of a mysterious boy who wakes up with no memories and a literal hole in his chest, and he's thrown into this bizarre universe of body swapping and inequality and memory crime. And as he travels through this universe, the show keeps asking, if your body changes and your memories can be manipulated, then what's actually you? Maybe you can see a little thread of what I like in anime, and which anime do resonate with me. But these are the most psychedelic ones, Kaiba is really playing with this idea of memory. Like, what does it mean to be you? And what does it mean? And how does that relate to your memories? Again, it also covers this process of anamnesis, of recollecting. The process of learning is a process of recollection, and it asks, what is the nature of mind, basically? What is the nature of mind, and how does it relate to our identity and to our body? And how does it relate to form, the form and the formless? And still, it also covers beautiful themes of social inequality and also very human themes of love, of family, of what it means to have a good heart and to be in this world. And immortality as well, right? It plays into this role of when you embark on this journey of contemplation into memory, transferring memory from form to form. It basically opens the question for immortality as well. So Kaiba is a beautiful journey. It's kind of like very episodic in the beginning, and then ends with a very heavy philosophical fast bang at the end. But it really touched me emotionally, just to embark on this journey and be fully in there and just have my mind expanded through the immersion of these themes that are covered from episode to episode. So it's a big recommendation. Very, very emotional anime. Good. So now we're getting to two of my favorite animes of all time. One is Mushishi, and that takes the second place on this list of my top 5 psychedelic anime. And Mushishi is quite a unique anime on this list because it doesn't seem so psychedelic. You know, the art style and the animations, they seem quite normal. You know, there's nothing too spectacular or colorful about them. There's no crazy things happening in this anime. But I think that is what makes it so psychedelic, because the psychedelics are showing me, at least in many moments, that it's about being fully human. It's about slowing down. It's about appreciating what you've already got and connecting with nature. And so Mushishi is this very slow, episodic show that doesn't even have a storyline, but it's psychedelic in the sense that it really covers a lot of these themes that psychedelics bring up again as well. So in Mushishi we follow this wanderer, or we could even call him a medicine man or shaman, you know, named Ginkgo, who travels through rural Japan dealing with strange invisible life forms called Mushi. And these aren't really, you know, just monsters or creatures in the usual sense. They're more like natural phenomena that interact with humans in very weird, beautiful, and sometimes tragic, humanly perceived tragic ways. And each episode is like a self-contained tale, you know, and it's very calm, atmospheric, and quietly emotional, where the solution or kind of like the end of the episode isn't always a victory, but it is just what it is, you know, and that's what's so beautiful about this anime. It really touches on these very human themes of impermanence and of the unknown, of death, and of the balance of life. And it touches on animism as well, you know, just like this idea that nature is conscious, and that we are nature, but still somehow our relationship to nature is difficult based on the experience of survival, or of the innate drive for survival. But just as we have this innate drive for survival, so does nature. So does almost everything in nature have a drive for survival. So how do we enter that relationship then? How do we move with nature and, you know, still coexist with nature in a balanced way? And how can we detach and appreciate and accept just the nature of reality as it is? And watching Mushishi is psychedelic for me personally, because it's almost like a meditation. You know, just when I think about these episodes and my experience of watching it, like I drop into a deep realization, because it's this very slow mysticism. It's a deep meditation and a deep experience of presence just to watch the show and to follow along and to drop into the river of life and the river of this show. So that's what's so beautiful about Mushishi, and that's why it made it so high on the list of my top psychedelic anime. Right, so the last one that I want to cover is the Tatami Galaxy, also by Masaaki Yuasa. Again, also one of my most favorite shows, and again also not psychedelic in the sense, this one is not psychedelic in the sense that it covers, you know, these deep existential and heavy philosophical issues, even though it is philosophical, but in a very playful kind of way. It is very colorful in a sense, and it is very weird in its art style and kind of psychedelic in its art style and presentation. But what makes it so great is just like the whole picture of the show as you move from beginning to end, and its style of covering these different topics and themes. So in Tatami Galaxy you follow this weird, little bit anxious or cynical college guy who's named Watashi, which is basically translated as I or me, which is funny, you know, funny symbolism, who's convinced he picked up the wrong friends, the wrong club, the wrong life, you know, he made the wrong choices, and he's desperate to find the perfect version of his university experience. So the show basically keeps rewinding time, episode by episode, and replaying his college years in alternate timelines, where one tiny choice sends his whole life in a completely different direction. And the deeper you go on that journey, the more it becomes about regret, idealization, and finally choosing to actually live the life in front of you. So it's just so beautiful because it's so real, you know? Not everybody might relate to the themes and the setting of the university. Depends on where you are in your life. But when I watched it, you know, I was still in high school, and the more I rewatched the show as well over the years, the more I got from it. I think that is what's so beautiful about all these anime that I'm recommending right here. I think a good show is something that you can watch over and over again, and you can extract even more beauty and even more insight and even more enjoyment out of each round that you watch this show. So it's psychedelic. Tatami Galaxy is psychedelic because of these timelines, but it's so beautiful because it really touches on the perfection of the present moment, which is what the psychedelics are teaching as well. It's really about, you know, just seeing what's right in front of you and seeing that as your choice, seeing that as the reality. So in Tatami Galaxy, I want to also share one or two quotes. One is, "Always dreaming of the unrealistic, I never looked at what I had right around me. That was the life I chose, and this is the result I wished for." Another one is also, "The root of all your evil is in always relying on one of your other possibilities to get your wish." And the result, the end result, basically of this anime, which I don't want to spoiler, but kind of like it's obvious, is that as he seeks this, what he calls the rose-colored university campus experience, kind of like the perfect choices, towards the end he's realizing there is nothing rose-colored in this world. You know, everything is all a bunch of colors mixed up. Everything just is as it is, and we're here to just grab this opportunity that's right in front of us and go all in with our present experience of life. And that's what's so manifesting about it. You know, it's just manifesting this insight of the psychedelic into the show, and it covers these themes of choice, of purpose, of perfection, and of beauty in the most beautiful and playful and, you know, just like very quirky and clever way, I would say. So that was it. That was my top 5 psychedelic anime. Hope you enjoyed this little fun, different video on this channel. Don't get lost in watching shows though. You know, it's something that it's kind of like something I do every once in a while. Every couple of weeks I watch like an episode or a show, like, and then I go back to real life, you know, and I just like, I implement the insight from the shows and I implement the insight of the psychedelics to actually, you know, live my life and enjoy my life. But art is a beautiful way to experience transcendence and to get out of yourself, basically. Right, so that was it. A couple more recommendations. I would say honorable mentions are Kino's Journey, Haibana Renmei, Technolize, Mononoke, and Paranoia Agent. If you're curious, check those out as well if you have seen all the other ones, and let me know what are your favorite ones. So I want to end this with a quote from Mushishi. He said, "Don't let yourself be blinded by fear or anger. Everything is only as it is." So it's really speaking to this prayer of the Sikh, the Nirabao Niraver, the qualities of the One. So Satnam, everybody, enjoy your life and let me know what kind of shows you're gonna be watching. If you're curious about psychedelic space and tapping deeper into psychedelic integration and preparation and psychedelic actualization, then watch this video next. This is the 3-hour masterclass about psychedelics, a beautiful introduction into the space.